Musa, the Emperor of Mali, whose name has become synonymous with unimaginable wealth. Picture this: a man so rich that his generosity destabilized entire economies, whose opulent pilgrimage to Mecca turned heads across continents, and whose legacy still echoes through the pages of time. Mansa Musa was not just a ruler, he was a phenomenon, a beacon of prosperity and cultural renaissance in a world often shrouded in darkness. His story is one of gilded caravans, glittering gold, and a vision that reshaped the cultural and economic fabric of West Africa forever. Welcome to ASMR History, where the past comes alive in a soothing, whispered embrace. Tonight we journey back to the 14th century, to the heart of the Mali Empire, a realm of bustling trade, vibrant scholarship, and breathtaking artistry. It was an age of thriving markets where salt and gold were exchanged like lifeblood, connecting distant lands and cultures. In this world, Mansa Musa rose to power, leaving an indelible mark on history. Together, we will unravel the life of a leader who not only amassed unparalleled riches, but also wielded them as tools for diplomacy, education, and cultural preservation. This isn't just a story about wealth, it's a story about vision. Mansa Musa understood the power of influence, the weight of a legacy, and the art of creating a narrative that transcends borders. As you listen, allow yourself to sink into the rich textures of history, to hear the hum of trade routes, and to feel the pulse of an empire at its zenith. Mansa Musa's story holds lessons that resonate even today. His leadership was a masterclass in the balance between ambition and generosity. He used his fortune not just to glorify himself, but to build universities, mosques, and cities that became beacons of culture and knowledge. His journey reminds us of the enduring importance of vision, of creating something that outlives us, and of wielding power with purpose. As Basil Davidson once wrote, Mansa Musa's legacy is one of unimaginable wealth and profound cultural influence. His story is not just a chapter in African history, it is a testament to the heights humanity can achieve when ambition and wisdom collide. To truly understand Mansa Musa's impact, we must first step back into the world that made him. Before the golden age of his reign, the Mali Empire was already a marvel of its time, a land of promise, prosperity, and potential. It is here, amidst the bustling markets and the whispers of history, that our journey begins. Long before Mansa Musa's name graced the annals of history, the Mali Empire had already established itself as a glittering jewel in the crown of West Africa. Its foundation was the work of Sundiata Keita, a leader whose legend is etched in both history and myth. In the early 13th century, Sundiata emerged as a unifying force, rallying disparate kingdoms under his banner to create a vast empire that stretched across fertile savannas and rich river valleys. Known as the Lion King, his victory over the Soso kingdom at the Battle of Kirina marked the birth of Mali as a dominant power, one that would set the stage for a golden age of wealth and culture. Sundiata's genius lay not only in his military conquests, but also in his ability to govern. He understood that true power required more than sword swords and spears. It demanded stability, infrastructure, and a vision for prosperity. Under his rule, Mali became a hub of commerce, its boundaries threaded with trade routes that connected the empire to distant lands. Gold flowed like water from the mines of Bambouk and Bure, resources that would become the lifeblood of the empire's economy. With this wealth, Sundiata laid the groundwork for a society that would flourish long after his time. Trade was the heartbeat of the Mali Empire. The trans-Saharan trade routes transformed this West African kingdom into a vital link between the Islamic world and sub-Saharan Africa. Imagine the sight of camel caravans winding their way through the golden dunes of the Sahara, their loads heavy with the riches of the land. Gold, the most coveted resource, drew merchants from North Africa, the Mediterranean, and even Europe. Salt, mined in slabs from the arid deserts, was as precious as gold itself, vital for preserving food and maintaining health. Alongside these commodities were ivory, cola nuts, and sadly, enslaved people, whose stories remind us of the darker threads woven into the fabric of history. These trade networks weren't just economic lifelines, they were conduits for ideas, beliefs, and cultures. Through the bustling markets and caravanserais, Islam began to take root in Mali. The religion arrived with the merchants and scholars who brought not just goods, but also books, learning, and new ways of thinking. Yet, Islam in Mali did not erase the local traditions that had existed for centuries. Instead, it blended with them, creating a unique cultural tapestry. Traditional rituals continued alongside Islamic prayers, and rulers adopted the religion as a means of strengthening their ties with the wider Muslim world, while honouring the spiritual practices of their people. As Ibn Khaldun later wrote in his Muqaddimah, the wealth of Mali was proverbial in the Islamic world, its gold coveted far and wide. This reputation was not merely a product of the empire's abundant resources, but also a reflection of its sophisticated governance and cultural integration. Mali was not an isolated kingdom. It was an empire that thrived on connection, a place where goods and ideas flowed freely, enriching its people and its rulers. By the time Mansa Musa came onto the scene, Mali was a force to be reckoned with. Its foundations had been laid by Sundiata and strengthened by generations of rulers who followed. It was a realm brimming with promise, wealth, and ambition. But while the empire's riches were legendary, it would take a leader of extraordinary vision to turn Mali into a symbol of global opulence and influence. That leader was Mansa Musa, a man whose rise to power would forever alter the course of history. In the annals of Mali's history, few tales are as enigmatic as that of Abu Bakr II, the ruler whose ambitions stretched beyond the known world. Abu Bakr II was Mansa Musa's predecessor, a king captivated by the lure of the Atlantic Ocean. Chronicles tell of his decision to abandon the throne in pursuit of discovery, leading a fleet of ships on a voyage into the vast unknown. The fate of Abu Bakr and his expedition remains shrouded in mystery. They vanished, leaving behind a story that would ignite imaginations for centuries. His departure, however, created a power vacuum that would change the course of history. Into this void stepped Mansa Musa, a leader destined to elevate Mali to heights few could have imagined. Musa ascended the throne in 1312 under extraordinary circumstances. His accession wasn't born of conquest or rebellion, but through a chain of events that thrust him into power during a pivotal moment. The Mali Empire was already a formidable state, yet it required steady hands to navigate the challenges of succession and governance. As the new Mansa, Musa inherited an empire rich in resources, but fraught with political and administrative complexities, ensuring the stability of a kingdom that spanned thousands of miles and encompassed diverse peoples was no small task, but Musa was prepared to meet the moment. One of his first acts as ruler was to address the administrative structure of the empire. Musa understood that the strength of a kingdom lay in its foundations, its laws, trade networks, and ability to unify disparate regions under a shared purpose. Drawing upon the wealth of the gold mines in Bambouk and Bura, he bolstered Mali's economy, ensuring the steady flow of resources that would fuel his grand ambitions. Trade routes were expanded and secured, creating a thriving network that linked Mali to North Africa, the Mediterranean and beyond. Under Musa's stewardship, the empire became a beacon of commerce, with its markets teeming with merchants from across the known world. Mansa Musa's leadership extended far beyond economic reforms. He wielded Islam as a unifying force, weaving it into the very fabric of Mali's identity. Islam had already begun to permeate West Africa through trade and scholarship, but Musa saw its potential as a tool for governance and diplomacy. He encouraged the construction of mosques and madrasas, ensuring that education and spiritual growth flourished in his empire. Yet, Musa was a pragmatist. While he embraced Islam wholeheartedly, he also respected the traditional practices of his people, fostering a culture of religious tolerance that strengthened his rule. His wisdom and justice became legendary. Oral traditions, like those captured in the Epic of Mali, recall a ruler who governed with a rare balance of strength and compassion. Mansa Musa ruled with wisdom and justice, ensuring the prosperity of his people. They proclaim, Musa was more than a king. He was a guardian of his people's well-being, a leader who understood that true power lay in serving those who entrusted him with the throne. As his reign progressed, Musa's vision for Mali grew ever grander. He not only sought to maintain the empire's prosperity, but to elevate its status on the global stage. His reforms laid the groundwork for a cultural and economic renaissance, transforming Mali into one of the most powerful and respected kingdoms of its time. But Musa's ambitions were not confined to the borders of his empire. He sought to leave a mark far beyond West Africa, a legacy that would echo across continents. This drive for international recognition would soon manifest in an extraordinary journey, one that would cement Mansa Musa's place as a legend. His pilgrimage to Mecca, or Hajj, would become the stuff of historical lore, a demonstration of wealth and faith that dazzled the medieval world. To understand the true magnitude of this journey, however, we must first appreciate the foundations Musa had so carefully laid as ruler. It is from this solid base that he embarked on a voyage that would etch his name into the chronicles of history. 1324, a golden caravan began its journey from the heart of West Africa, destined to astonish the medieval world. At its head was Mansa Musa, the ruler of the Mali Empire, embarking on one of the most extraordinary pilgrimages in history. For Muslims, the Hajj is more than a journey. It is a sacred act, one of the 5 pillars of Islam, symbolizing devotion, humility, and submission to Allah. For Mansa Musa, the pilgrimage to Mecca was both a personal act of faith and a strategic display of Mali's immense power and wealth. His decision to undertake the Hajj was a profound statement, a demonstration of his piety as a devout Muslim and his ambition to solidify Mali's place on the global stage. Mansa Musa's Hajj was unlike any before or since. It was not the journey of a solitary pilgrim or even a small group, but a spectacle of unimaginable grandeur. The pilgrimage became an opportunity to showcase the prosperity of Mali, a kingdom built on gold and a flourishing trade network. Yet, for Musa, it was also deeply spiritual. His faith was genuine, and his devotion to Islam shaped not only his personal life, but his governance. The Hajj was a way to fulfill a sacred obligation, while strengthening his ties with the broader Islamic world, aligning Mali with a shared cultural and religious identity that stretched from the deserts of Arabia to the courts of Cairo. Preparation for the journey began long before the caravan set out. It was an endeavour of epic proportions, requiring meticulous planning and vast resources. Musa's entourage was staggering in size. An estimated 60,000 people accompanied him on the pilgrimage. Soldiers marched in disciplined formations, protecting the caravan from threats. Officials managed the logistics, ensuring that supplies were abundant and operations ran smoothly. Servants, traders, and scholars added to the grandeur, each playing a role in the success of the journey. The caravan itself was a marvel. Camels laden with treasure stretched across the horizon, their loads shimmering under the desert sun. Each camel carried up to 300 pounds of gold, a testament to Mali's vast resources. The logistical demands were monumental. Thousands of pounds of food and water were needed to sustain the travellers as they crossed harsh terrain. Tents provided shelter under the scorching heat of the Sahara, and skilled handlers ensured that the animals remained healthy and strong. The sheer scale of the operation was unprecedented, a reflection of Musa's vision and the might of his empire. As the caravan moved through towns and villages, it became a spectacle that captured the imagination of all who saw it. Travellers and merchants recounted tales of the procession, the golden-clad emperor, the shimmering wealth, and the disciplined order of the thousands who marched alongside him. As al-Sadi later wrote in the Tariq al-Sudan, Mansa Musa's caravan shimmered like a river of gold, stretching across the sands of the Sahara. Musa's pilgrimage was not just about gold or grandeur. It was a statement of identity and aspiration. It declared to the world that Mali was a land of wealth, culture, and influence. This was an empire deeply rooted in Islamic faith, yet proud of its African heritage, a kingdom where tradition and progress walked hand in hand. The Hajj became a bridge between West Africa Islamic heartlands, connecting Mali to a broad network of trade, scholarship, and diplomacy. As the caravan approached Cairo, the anticipation grew. Musa's arrival in the Egyptian capital would prove to be one of the most famous episodes of his journey, leaving a lasting impact on the city's people and its economy. Cairo awaited a ruler whose name would become legend, a king whose generosity would be remembered for centuries. The Golden Caravan continued its steady march, unaware of the ripples it would send through history. When Mansa Musa's caravan arrived in Cairo in 1324, it was nothing short of a spectacle. Thousands of travellers, adorned in vibrant garments of silk and gold, entered the bustling city, with camels bearing treasures that shimmered under the Egyptian sun. At the heart of this procession was Mansa Musa himself, a ruler of unparalleled wealth and dignity, whose reputation had already begun to precede him. The Egyptian Sultan, Al-Nasir Muhammad, welcomed the Malian king with great ceremony. However, their meeting was as much an intersection of faith as it was of politics. When asked to bow before the Sultan, Musa gently refused, declaring that his reverence was reserved for Allah alone. This act of humility left a lasting impression, solidifying his image as a devout and principled leader. Yet, humility was only one side of Mansa Musa's character. His generosity became the defining feature of his visit to Cairo. Musa's wealth flowed as freely as the Nile, enriching the city and its people. He distributed gold to the poor, ensuring that no beggar went unnoticed. He commissioned the construction of mosques and funded local merchants, spreading his wealth with an open hand. The streets of Cairo buzzed with tales of this foreign king, whose caravan seemed inexhaustible in its treasures. Musa's actions weren't just generous, they were transformative, elevating his reputation as a benevolent and pious ruler in the eyes of those who witnessed his deeds. However, this torrent of gold came with unintended consequences. Cairo's markets, awash with Musa's wealth, experienced an economic upheaval. Gold became so abundant that its value plummeted, triggering a wave of inflation that destabilized the local economy for over a decade. Prices soared, and the balance of trade was disrupted as merchants scrambled to adjust to the sudden influx of wealth. While Musa's largesse brought short-term prosperity to many, it also highlighted the sheer power and influence of Mali's riches. As Al-Umari later observed, Mansa Musa's journey through Cairo left an indelible mark, flooding its markets with gold. Beyond the economic ripples, Musa's journey had a profound cultural and diplomatic impact. His pilgrimage elevated Mali's status on the global stage, spreading tales of its wealth and sophistication throughout the Islamic world. In the courts of Arabia and beyond, Musa was celebrated as a devout Muslim and a wise ruler whose generosity reflected the strength of his faith. Mali, once a distant and unfamiliar land, became a symbol of prosperity and learning, firmly embedded in the imagination of the medieval world. The legends of his journey reached as far as Europe, where cartographers began marking Mali on their maps, often with Musa's likeness crowned in gold. Mansa Musa's time in Cairo demonstrated the duality of his character, humble in faith, yet extravagant in generosity. His journey was not only a fulfillment of religious obligation, but a masterstroke of diplomacy and cultural exchange, a moment where faith and fortune converged to leave an indelible impression. As the caravan moved beyond Cairo, it carried with it not only treasures, but the seeds of a legacy that would flourish in Mali itself. The lessons learned and connections forged on this pilgrimage would soon manifest in Musa's grand vision for his empire, transforming cities like Timbuktu into centres of architectural splendour and intellectual brilliance. When Mansa Musa returned to Mali after his legendary pilgrimage, he carried with him not only spiritual fulfillment, but also grand visions for his empire. His journey had exposed him to the architectural and cultural wonders of the Islamic world, inspiring a determination to transform Mali into a beacon of prosperity, faith, and learning. Nowhere was this ambition more evident than in his architectural projects, which redefined the physical and cultural landscape of his empire. At the heart of this transformation was Timbuktu, a city destined to become one of the great centres of learning and culture in the medieval world. One of Mansa Musa's most famous legacies is the construction of the Jingwara Mosque in Timbuktu, a masterpiece of Islamic architecture that still stands today. To design this sacred structure, Musa enlisted the expertise of Abu Ishaq es-Sahili, a renowned architect from Al-Andalus, modern-day Spain. The mosque's design blended traditional Islamic styles with local materials and techniques, creating a unique aesthetic that symbolized the fusion of African and Islamic cultures. This was no mere building. It was a statement of Mali's identity as a thriving Islamic state and a centre of faith and knowledge. Musa's investment in such projects extended beyond religious structures to include palaces, madrasas, and urban developments that reflected the empire's wealth and sophistication. Under Mansa Musa's patronage, Timbuktu blossomed into a hub of scholarship and education. The city's location along key trade routes made it a melting pot of cultures, ideas, and traditions, drawing scholars, poets, and theologians from across Africa and the Islamic world. Mansa Musa understood that the true power of an empire lay not just in its wealth, but in its ability to cultivate the mind. He established schools and libraries, filling them with manuscripts that covered a vast array of subjects, from theology and law to astronomy and medicine. Timbuktu became a city where intellectual curiosity was as valuable as gold, a place where the pursuit of knowledge flourished. Among Timbuktu's crowning achievements was the development of Sankore University, an institution that became one of the most prestigious centres of learning in the Islamic world. Scholars and students travelled great distances to study at Sankore, where they were welcomed into a vibrant academic community. The university offered rigorous programs that rivaled those of great Islamic cities like Cairo and Baghdad. At Sankore, manuscripts were copied, ideas exchanged, and knowledge preserved for generations to come. Mansa Musa's architectural and cultural initiatives were not just about creating physical monuments, but about building a legacy of enlightenment His efforts elevated Timbuktu from a trade hub to a city synonymous with learning and innovation, as al-Sadi reflected in the Tariq al-Sudan. Mansa Musa's architectural vision transformed Timbuktu into a city where stone and spirit intertwined. The transformation of Timbuktu into a cultural and educational powerhouse laid the groundwork for a golden age of intellectual preservation and exchange. Within the walls of its libraries and universities, the seeds of Mali's intellectual legacy were sown, waiting to flourish in the hands of future generations. The manuscripts and knowledge housed there would ensure that the wisdom of the past could endure through the ages, shaping the identity of Mali and beyond. Nestled along the edge of the Sahara, Timbuktu became far more than a city of trade. It evolved into a sanctuary of wisdom. Under Mansa Musa's patronage, its libraries and universities grew into beacons of knowledge, safeguarding the intellectual heritage of an empire. Manuscripts and texts, carefully penned by scholars, filled the shelves of Timbuktu's storied libraries. These volumes were not mere relics of religious devotion. They were testaments to a civilization's curiosity and intellectual ambition. Subjects like astronomy, medicine, theology, law, mathematics, and literature were meticulously documented, creating a treasure trove of information that preserved the wisdom of both Mali and the broader Islamic world. At the heart of this preservation was the belief that knowledge was a gift to be cherished and shared. Scholars from across Africa and the Islamic world flocked to Timbuktu, lured by its reputation as a city where learning thrived. They brought with them not only their expertise, but their manuscripts, enriching the city's intellectual landscape. Timbuktu became a cultural crossroads where ideas flowed freely and the exchange of knowledge transcended borders. Poets composed verses that celebrated the grandeur of Mali. Theologians debated the finest points of faith, and astronomers charted the heavens. This intellectual vitality ensured that the knowledge amassed during Mansa Musa's reign would echo across centuries. The Sankore University and other centres of learning played a vital role in ensuring this legacy endured. Students and scholars gathered in these hallowed halls, where they engaged in rigorous study and debate. Manuscripts were not only read, but copied and disseminated, spreading Mali's influence far beyond its borders. These works, many of which survive today, stand as a testament to the intellectual achievements of the Mali Empire. Through them, the voices of scholars and poets who lived centuries ago continue to speak, reminding us of a time when Timbuktu shone as a beacon of enlightenment. Timbuktu's reputation as a city of gold and learning was not confined to Africa. Tales of its wealth and intellectual prowess reached far beyond the Sahara, captivating the imaginations of traders, travellers, and scholars across the Islamic world and into Europe. Ibn Khaldun famously described Timbuktu as the jewel of Africa, a city of gold and learning, encapsulating the wonder it inspired. European cartographers etched its name onto their maps, often embellishing it with symbols of wealth and grandeur, while merchants from the Mediterranean to the Middle East dreamed treasures it held. This global recognition elevated Mali's standing, transforming it from a regional power to a symbol of cultural and intellectual richness. Timbuktu's libraries became synonymous with the preservation of wisdom, and its scholars were seen as custodians of knowledge. The intellectual legacy of Mansa Musa's empire demonstrated that Mali's greatness was not merely measured in gold, but in its ability to cultivate the mind. Timbuktu proved that power could be wielded not only through wealth, but through ideas, leaving an enduring mark on history. As Timbuktu flourished, its preservation of knowledge laid the groundwork for Mali's long-term legacy. Yet, Mansa Musa's impact extended beyond culture and learning. It reverberated through the empire's economy, shaping the fortunes of Mali and influencing trade networks across the medieval world. The story of his economic vision reveals the same genius that turned Timbuktu into a cultural powerhouse. Beneath the golden sands of Mali lay the foundation of an empire's immense wealth. Gold and salt, two commodities that defined the economic engine of Mansa Musa's realm, were not merely goods of trade. They were the lifeblood of a network that spanned continents. The gold mines of Bambouk and Bura were among the richest in the world, producing a significant portion of the global supply in the 14th century. Meanwhile, the salt mines of Takaza, deep in the Sahara, yielded a resource so essential it was traded weight for weight with gold. Together, these commodities form the backbone of Mali's economy, powering trade routes that connected sub-Saharan Africa to North Africa, the Mediterranean, and beyond. The trans-Saharan trade routes were arteries of commerce, pulsating with the exchange of goods, culture, and ideas. Camel caravans laden with gold, salt, ivory, and other treasures traversed the vast desert, linking the Mali Empire to distant lands. Traders from North Africa eagerly sought Mali's gold, which was prized in markets as far away as Cairo, Damascus, and Venice. In return, they brought textiles, beads, and other luxuries that enriched Mali's cities. This exchange not only filled the empire's coffers, but also cemented its reputation as a land of untold riches. Mansa Musa's reign amplified the global impact of Mali's wealth. His legendary pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324 showcased the empire's prosperity in a way that left an indelible mark on the world. His caravan's lavish display of gold, his extravagant generosity, and the tales of his boundless riches captured the imagination of merchants and monarchs alike. News of Mali's wealth spread across the Islamic world and reached Europe, inspiring awe and curiosity. European cartographers began to take notice, placing Mali and Mansa Musa himself on their maps. The 1375 Catalan Atlas, created by Abraham Cresques, depicted Musa as a regal figure holding a gleaming gold nugget, a visual declaration of Africa's wealth that resonated across medieval Europe. This newfound awareness of Africa's riches had ripple effects on global markets. European interest in Africa grew, spurred by tales of its vast gold reserves. Merchants and explorers began to dream of direct access to Mali's treasures, planting the seeds of future expeditions and trade. Mansa Musa's legacy extended far beyond his empire's borders, influencing the economic and cultural perceptions of Africa for centuries to come. As the Catalan Atlas proclaimed, the wealth of Mali under Mansa Musa was the stuff of legend, even in far-off Europe. Within Mali, Mansa Musa's economic vision was transformative. He wielded his immense wealth with purpose, using it to stabilize the empire and improve the lives of his people. Infrastructure projects flourished under his reign, with roads, bridges, and cities built to support the growing demands of trade and governance. His investments extended to the agricultural sector, ensuring food security for his people. Musa's wealth was not hoarded. It was strategically deployed to create a thriving, stable society. Musa's economic policies also reflected his commitment to justice and fairness. He introduced standardized weights and measures to ensure the transparency in trade and implemented systems of taxation that balanced the needs of the state with the prosperity of its citizens. This careful stewardship of resources fostered an era of stability and growth, allowing Mali to reach its zenith as a political and economic powerhouse. As the empire's wealth grew, so too did its cultural and intellectual influence. Timbuktu, with its bustling markets and renowned centres of learning, stood as a testament to the harmonious blend of commerce and culture. Mansa Musa's economic legacy was not just about gold and salt, it was about the prosperity they enabled and the connections they forged. Yet, the story of Mansa Musa's wealth is inseparable from the myths it inspired. His fortune became the subject of countless tales, blending fact and legend in a way that immortalized his name. This intertwining of history and myth would shape how the world remembered Mali and its great ruler, creating a legacy that continues to captivate imaginations to this day. The name Mansa Musa conjures images of unimaginable wealth, golden caravans, and opulent generosity. Over the centuries, his legacy has taken on mythical proportions, becoming a blend of history and legend. Stories of his gold-laden pilgrimage to Mecca claim that he could bankrupt entire nations with a single act of spending. Markets in Cairo, it was said, never fully recovered from the inflation caused by his extravagant gifts. While these accounts may exaggerate the scale of his wealth, they speak to the awe he inspired in his contemporaries and the enduring fascination with his reign. Mansa Musa's story became a tale that transcended time, cementing his reputation as the richest man in history and a figure larger than life. These myths were not mere curiosities, they served to solidify Musa's place in the global consciousness. Medieval maps, like the Catalan Atlas, depicted him holding a gleaming nugget of gold, a symbol of his wealth and Africa's riches. Such imagery captured the imagination of Europeans, who saw in Musa not just a king, but a vision of Africa's untapped potential. While the accounts of his vast fortune may have been exaggerated, they highlighted a truth. Mansa Musa's Mali was a land of incredible prosperity, cultural depth, and global influence. In Africa, Mansa Musa's legacy resonated deeply. He became a symbol of the continent's achievements and a source of pride for generations to come. His reign demonstrated that African African civilizations were not isolated, but deeply connected to global trade networks, capable of shaping economies and cultures far beyond their borders. In a world often dominated by Eurocentric narratives, Mansa Musa stood as a testament to Africa's historical prominence. His story has inspired modern movements to reclaim and celebrate African history, showcasing the heights of innovation, leadership, and cultural richness achieved by its people. Mansa Musa was more than a wealthy ruler. He was a symbol of possibility. His legacy represents Africa's potential for greatness, a land of unparalleled resources, vibrant cultures, and profound contributions to humanity. From the golden mines of Mali to the intellectual pursuits of Timbuktu, his empire exemplified the extraordinary accomplishments of African civilizations. In him, historians and leaders have found a figure who defies stereotypes, embodying a narrative of power, prosperity, and dignity. In modern times, Mansa Musa's story continues to inspire. He is frequently referenced in media and pop culture, from history books to documentaries and even music. His life has become a touchstone for exploring the richness of African history, offering a counterpoint to narratives that often overlook the continent's contributions to global heritage. Historical studies continue to unpack the details of his reign, while artists and writers find in his story a wellspring of creativity. As Ali Masrui wrote in Africa's Glorious History, Mansa Musa's golden legacy continues to inspire, a testament to the heights of African civilization. His myth and legacy have also sparked curiosity about what might have been. What if Mali's wealth and influence had continued to grow in the centuries that followed? What lessons can the modern world draw from Mansa Musa's reign? His story challenges us to reconsider the narratives we've inherited and to see Africa not as a continent of untapped potential, but as a place where greatness has long thrived. The myth of Mansa Musa is not just about gold, it is about vision, leadership, and a belief in the power of knowledge and faith. His tale weaves together threads of history and legend, creating a legacy that inspires as much as it dazzles. As we reflect on his impact, we see a ruler who understood that wealth is not merely a measure of material goods, but a means to uplift a people and forge a legacy. This vision of leadership, steeped in purpose and ambition, forms the heart of Mansa Musa's enduring story and leads us to consider the broader reflections on his life and achievements. As I reflect on the life of Mansa Musa, I can't help but marvel at the extraordinary legacy he left behind. His name is synonymous with wealth, but his story is so much more than tales of gold and riches. Mansa Musa was a visionary, a leader who understood that true power lies in how you use it. He transformed Mali into an empire that dazzled the medieval world, not only with its vast resources, but with its intellectual and cultural achievements. From the shimmering caravans of his pilgrimage to the scholarly halls of Timbuktu, his reign was a golden age for West Africa. Mansa Musa's unparalleled wealth was only the beginning of his legacy. The gold mines of Mali may have been the envy of the world, but it was his investment in education and culture that stories that preserve the wisdom of the ages. Timbuktu, under his patronage, became a beacon of learning, attracting scholars and poets who ensured that the legacy of his empire would endure long after his reign. What makes Mansa Musa's story so compelling is not just what he achieved, but how he achieved it. His pilgrimage to Mecca was a testament to his faith and a masterstroke of diplomacy. With every coin he spent, every mosque he funded, and every act of generosity he performed, he wove Mali into the fabric of the Islamic world. His journey elevated Mali's status on the global stage and reminded the world that Africa was a land of boundless potential and enduring greatness. The lessons of Mansa Musa's reign resonate even today. He reminds us of the power of education, the importance of cultural preservation, and the value of diplomacy and faith. He showed that wealth is not an end in itself, but a tool to uplift others and build a better future. His leadership was a balance of humility and ambition, of vision and action. As Robert Collins aptly put it in The History of West Africa, Mansa Musa's reign was a golden age for Mali and a shining example of leadership and legacy. Even now, his story continues to inspire. It challenges us to look beyond the surface, to see Africa not just as a continent of resources, but as a cradle of civilizations that shaped the world. Mansa Musa's legacy invites us to celebrate the richness of African history, to honour its stories, and to recognise the leaders who paved the way for generations to come. As you listen to the echoes of Mansa Musa's story, I encourage you to reflect on the vast tapestry of African history and the countless stories yet to be told. His life is a reminder that history is more than dates and events. It is a living testament to what humanity can achieve. Mansa Musa used his wealth to build an empire, foster a culture, and leave an enduring mark on the world. His story, whispered through time, will forever shine as a beacon of what leadership, vision, and faith can accomplish. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and please like and subscribe if you want to see